So I've been reminiscing on my mental health throughout med school. I just finished my 7 year medical course and I've been thinking about the impact it had on my mental health. Mental health is not something that is very popular in developing countries, especially where I'm from. It's not talked about a lot. It's still a very unfamiliar topic. I am hoping that it will become more people will become more comfortable speaking about it. But growing up in an African home is just not something that was ever addressed. I remember growing up and having moments of anxiety and having moments of this extreme fear just coming over me, and having moments of unexplained sadness, and there not really being any systems to help me through that, because like nobody knew what mental health was. It wasn't talked about. So even as a child, if I would go to my parents about something like that, the most that will happen would be just sleep over it, or maybe you're hungry, or in some cases it's even shut up. What are you talking about? Do you know what it means? Do you know, like, for example, if a child would say, I had this, I'm just sad, I don't know. Or a child would say, I'm hearing these voices in my head. At the time, the response of many parents would be, shut up. Do you know what that means? You're just being childish. Get out from here. Or in other homes, in some homes it would be like, the I bind that in the name of Jesus. Right? Back then my parents didn't have that knowledge, but more and more as we're growing up, that became more of the response of, I bind that in the name of Jesus, or I cancel that in the name of Jesus. And I'm a Christian. I totally believe in the power of the word. In fact, I don't believe in mental health without Jesus. However, I know that if we are ignorant of the devices of the devil, we are in for a lot of trouble. So I don't think that mental health is something that should still be taboo even for Christians. Right? It's not enough to just tell somebody who is depressed that just pray about it. It's not enough to tell somebody who might need therapy to just sleep it through, right? We need to come to a place of consciousness of what is the devil attacking and what resources do we have to come against that. And yes, there is definitely the place of prayer, but there is also the place for good counseling and therapy. So growing up, I had a lot of self-esteem issues. I struggled with acne and pimples for the longest. In my mind, it felt like forever. Looking back, it was like a period of 7 years where I really struggled with it, and it just took me into this place of depression, of helplessness, of anxiety, of body dysmorphia. I remember not being able to look at myself in the mirror. I could not stand being taken a picture of, and anything that would cast a reflection on me, anything that would reflect my face or my image back to me, I just hated it. That meant if I was even walking by a car, and sometimes you can see your reflection on like the car's window. I could not stand that. I just hated the way I looked. When I looked in the mirror, I would literally see a monster. I hated the way I looked with all of me, and I would spend a lot of time just crying in secret, and nobody knew that I was going through this. Again, I didn't even have the words to express to another person what was happening or what I was struggling with. I felt like if I ever told someone this thing, I did not even identify that there was something wrong in what I was experiencing. That's the first thing. I couldn't even identify that there was something wrong. And even when I could tell that to another person, even when I could finally like be in a place where I could express what I was experiencing to another person, I felt like they wouldn't want to listen, or they wouldn't care, or they wouldn't understand. Added to the fact that I was extremely shy, talking about the slightest topics was so difficult. Yes, funny enough, I grew up I was quiet and reserved, but I wasn't shy, right? I was introverted, but not shy, right? So the shame was a thing that came with this low self-esteem, and it became a cycle of me looking at my face and hating it, to me being shy, to me not being able to open up to people. And it's something that even till today I start to struggle with. That I still struggle with starting and holding conversations with people. I still struggle with opening up to people. In fact, the only person I feel like I have completely opened up to, and again because I'm a kind of all or nothing kind of person, is my husband. Like, it's still a struggle for me to be totally transparent and authentic with people. It kind of stemmed from back then. So I would cry in secret, I would struggle not being able to tell anybody. And it was because my identity was so wrapped up in the way I looked, right? Because prior to this season of struggling with acne, I had a season of when I was still like a little kid where I didn't struggle with acne. I had perfect skin, flawless skin, right? Being complimented all the time. So in those first 7 years, my identity was so much attached to my looks, even as a little kid, even as a child. That's why I really believe that formative years, the first years of a child's life, are so critical. Whatever is implanted in that child's mind in those years goes on to be like the foundation of the rest of their lives. So even as a little girl, just first 7 years, because I was complimented so much about my looks, it became my identity. It became who I was. And then moving on to the next 7 years of my life or so, where this acne just hits and my self-esteem just plummeted. And then the next 7 years of my life was, and when I got into med school, my face was beginning to clear. Of course, it was a puberty thing, and it was beginning to clear. And now I found a new thing. I had found a new thing to place my identity in. So since the skin thing was an issue, I focused more on my academics, and I literally did so well academically prior to university, prior to med school. I literally won many national awards because of my academic performance. And now entering med school and now struggling academically. Again, my self-esteem just went to the bottom of the ocean. For the first 2 years it was okay, but like I think in the third year I just had this. It started with comparison. I think it started with comparing myself with my classmates and feeling like, why is it so easy for this person and not for me? And it becomes a cycle of, why is this person why is it so easy for this person and not for me? To you feeling like you're not good enough, to you feeling like you'll never really get a hang of this thing. And it's even crazier because you know from previous experience that you have the ability for excellence academically, but now in the face of a challenge, because your self-esteem is already so low, in the face of a challenge you just back off. People with good self-esteem don't run away from challenges. And this came as a shock to me. When I started learning about good self-esteem, I was like, okay, they don't run away from challenges. Literally, when you have a good perception of yourself or good, self-worth, when a challenge comes up, you just don't run. You face it, right? You acknowledge that life is full of challenges. You acknowledge that things won't always be perfect. But for a person with low self-esteem at that time, I couldn't fathom things not being perfect or things not going the way I wanted. So in the face of a challenge where my grades slipped, I just felt like this is the end for me. I am doomed. I can never bounce back. I can never return to a place of glory or my place of glory. And then fast forward to level 5. In level 5, I literally had a mental breakdown. I was doing my rotations in obstetrics and gynecology at a certain hospital, and I just couldn't take it anymore. The atmosphere became too thick for me. It was like I had this brain fog. It had even been going off for not even a couple of days, for a long while. And on this particular day, I just couldn't take it anymore. I just started crying helplessly. I went back home. I had to call my parents that I'm coming back home, I'm not feeling well. And they were so worried. They were like, go to the nearest hospital. No, go and do some tests. Go and get a checkup. They didn't get like that it was a mental thing. And I was like, no, it's not any of that. I'm just coming home. I just want to come home. They literally waited for me at the gates, like to welcome me, because they were so worried. Like they stood at the gate waiting for me. And I remember just sleeping. The next day I think I was leading the choir choir practice or something, and my eyes were just my eyes were just puffed up. Thinking back, I'm just like, my eyes were just like puffed up. I had been crying, and then I fell asleep. I could not stop crying. It was literally a burnout. Also, burnout. Added to the fact that the culture in med school is one where you are constantly talked down on. You're constantly talked down on. I think it's because, I don't know why. I don't even know why it's like that, because people have different ways of learning, right? I don't know why med school believes that this is just the best way because of the stakes of what you're called to do as a doctor. People or superiors believe that the best way to encourage you or to motivate you to study even harder is to make you feel like you are worthless, that you know nothing, that you are incapable. And the aim is that in doing so, they will motivate you to go and study more. Except that if you're a highly sensitive person like me, and if you already have your self-esteem at the verge of collapsing, then that doesn't work for you. That just sends you further into feelings of inadequacy and anxiety, right? So that was kind of it. I would be in this rut of comparing myself with my classmates, feeling inadequate, feeling unworthy, feeling like this is it, I'm doomed. Like this is it. Like imposter syndrome. It was literally it at that moment, feeling like I didn't even deserve all those awards that I got in previous years. That now everybody is going to know that I'm not that intelligent. This was bound to happen. This was bound to happen. And it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you have a mindset of defeat. And then the defeat happens and you feel like I knew it. Whereas it happened because you had a mindset of defeat, right? Did that make sense? This self-fulfilling prophecy thing of wrong mindsets leading to wrong outcomes. Are you thinking that the wrong outcome is a proof of what you have always believed? So yeah, I did eventually come out of that rut. I believe I did. I believe I did. There are definitely solutions, guys. Definitely solutions. I just can't wait to talk about how God took me out of this. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Please subscribe. This helps push out this content to more people. Alright, bye bye, guys.